it turns out in the protein world, there's something about protein that's probably important. Definitely the vegetarian theory is probably not the right theory, which is you don't need protein. How many people have run into that? You ever run into that? And it differs by metabolism. I know people 2 hours, man, they start going if they don't have protein. So then we just take 2 tablespoons of hemp protein just every 2 hours to get them sorted out, level, balanced, and it works. So it turns out that the best source of protein must be a raw source. Max Planck Institute did a study on protein and found out that 50% of the protein is lost through cooking. So if you're really into protein, you cook the protein, you lost half of it right there, right out of the get-go. It's probably more than that because it's not always even. Some proteins or amino acids, like tryptophan, are more subject to heat. They're destroyed immediately by heat. So certain amino acids drop right out of the picture through cooking. If we're going to take in a protein, it probably shouldn't be a factory-farmed cow or a factory-farmed chicken. I think the tumor rate's up to 80% now. Does anybody know about this? Who cares? Actually, it doesn't even matter. We're getting completely solution-oriented. We're not going to talk about the problem anymore. I mean, the problems are like they're beyond absurd. It's beyond the most aberrant, ridiculous situation ever on Earth. So we've just got to get right on to the solution. Superfood protein is the best protein for us. It's the most complete, it's the most available, and generally you need half of it to get the value. In fact, you get more value. Why? Because it's 100% raw. It's all entirely there. There's nothing missing. It's not been altered by little greedy little human hands. There's not had little flamethrowers onto it. I used to do whole lectures on why we shouldn't cook. I don't even have to convince people anymore. People, they have microwaves and that. It's like people know something's wrong. Something, somewhere. Number 1 cause of pollution on Earth, atmospheric pollution. I took this up against the women who produced the 11th Hour. Has anybody seen that film? It's about saving the environment. We're never going to save the environment unless we stop doing the number 1 thing that damages the environment. The number 1 cause of pollution in Los Angeles is not cars. What is it? Grills, restaurants, and cooking fires. The soot is the number 1 cause of atmospheric pollution in Los Angeles. No one ever talks about it. No one wants to talk about these things. We better start talking about it or we're never going to get the planet right to where we want it. What's the number 1 cause of soot over Southeast Asia? Is it industries? Is it coal? Is it nuclear power plants? I mean, what is it? Is it automobile exhaust? 42% of the gases, the soot that's over Southeast Asia, is soot from cooking fires. It's not from automobiles, which is 25%. We got to call it as it is, or we can't even get into the game. If we can't even call a problem as it is, we can't even get into the game. And that's what I was telling these women. They're like trying to save the planet by putting a little Band-Aid on some little problem that's like over here. How about let's put a Band-Aid on the big problem? At least let's look underneath the Band-Aid and just have a look at this thing. We began cooking as a food preservation technology. That's how it started. And during some cataclysm somewhere. Next thing you know, we're guzzling 5 animals a day. The amount of meat eating in America from 1814 to 1970 increased by 5 times. You can imagine what it's done since 1970 on. Am I here to say that this diet's right, that diet's wrong? Here's what I'm here to say. Get on the top 10 superfoods, get on the top 10 herbs, try to get off everything else. Whatever that looks like for you. How do you do the top 10 superfoods and top 10 herbs? Right there. Here's what you notice. The amount of food you need. We know that the more food you eat, the shorter your life. So the less food we eat, the longer we live. I don't know about you, but I don't want to have to choke down a few crumbs of bread and restrict myself and live in denial. Who wants to live in denial? Who's excited about going home and making sure they don't eat too much? Who's just stoked about counting calories? That's over with. Gone forever. Because in this, you get everything you need. And if you can consume 2,000 calories of this a day, you're on the high side. I mean, it's hard to do. That's difficult to consume that much. Some people say, no, I need 5,000 calories a day. You can't get 5,000 calories without feeling so stuffed from something like this that you literally can't have anymore. You just go, I can't, sorry. I've seen people, how many people here have lost over 100 pounds? Anybody in this audience lost over 100 pounds on live food?
I have.
See that? There's always one in every group now. Always one. I've had groups as high as 6 in the audience. 6 women one time in one audience, all lost over 100 pounds on live food. Here's how it's done. With ease, without trying. If you're trying, then you are lying. If you're willpower, like I have to not eat this. I can't eat that, but I'm going to eat this. How long does that last? Here's what we got to get on. Here's what people respond to. Stop trying to stop that or this or all that. Get out of that whole thing completely. We're not into yes, no, this is good, this is... We're getting out of that whole model of eating, and we're getting more into adding in what feels good. And that's all you have to do. I know people will overthink this. You don't have to stop whatever you're doing. You just add in now what feels good, what feels right, what you know is like ridiculously nutritious. When you're dealing with a drink like this with cacao beans, goji berries, maca, spirulina, every kind of, there's, first of all, it's a complete protein source. Second of all, that has more minerals in it than most Americans get in probably 2 or 3 weeks. Third, it tastes good. I want to drink that. Fourth, I know that if I do drink that, I don't even need to think about food for hours. It's a novelty. It's unique. It tastes good, so therefore, kids will even want to drink it. People want to have it. They'll be like, yeah, I'll have that. And that's how we do it. That's how we crack the code. That's cracking the diet code. Adding things in. How many people are excited about adding something new in? A new taste. A new experience. Anybody go to a raw food restaurant anywhere in the city? Anybody come in here every day and be like, hey, I want something different, new, unique? Of course. That's what people want. Now here's what the back end effect of that is. Over a period of time, it starts to, this stuff is ridiculous. And when you're dealing with cacao beans, goji berries is the #1 food in Chinese medicine out of 8,000 food herbs and 5,000 years of history. It's the #1 thing? Now, do we need to eat number 38 on the list? Do we need to even know what that is or care? Never again. You don't need to worry. You don't need to be a master herbalist. You don't need any of that. All you need to know what the top stuff is over here, top stuff is over there, throw it together, drink it, you're good. We're going to get into that list again. I know people are like, oh, you mentioned goji berries. What about these cocoa beans? Cacaos. Real nutrition that informs your body on what to do. If in fact the quantum reality is true. Anybody seen What the Bleep, The Secret, these kind of things? Okay, so that's a quantum physics perspective, that we're creating our own reality, or at least our own viewpoint of reality, that we control what's happening in our life. But I'll tell you what, if you're made of junk food or Pepsi Cola, my God, I don't know what kind of reality that's creating, but it probably is being reflected by what we see out there. And when you get onto whatever we're talking about here, it's something radically different, because suddenly inside yourself you feel good. People don't do well because they don't feel well. Upset stomachs, digestive disorders, aches and pains. Let me tell you something. In 1989, I broke my back. I could not do a push-up for 10 years. That's a fact. I couldn't sleep on my side for 2.5 years. Not even on my side. I couldn't get up straight. Like any tension at all, any pulling at all was painful. For years. Somebody came up this is about 2 months ago, and asked me, just on the side, it was really interesting. She said, are you ever in pain? And actually, I healed myself, and I'm so far out of that. I completely healed myself. I can do push-ups now, I can do anything. I can sit in a way that I couldn't sit before without causing my back to be all out, and I had all kinds of problems that are 100% gone.